Hello and welcome back to another episode of Voices of Western. This is the Humans of Western podcast, and I'm your host, Hossein. Welcome back to another one of the alumni episodes, and today in front of me I have Tareq Tayeh, who is a Western alumnus. He graduated with a Bachelor of Software Engineering from Western in 2018. During that time, he had done a co-op internship at IBM and was where he attended full-time after graduation for about a year and a half. Post that, he got interested into machine learning and AI, which is why he returned to Western for a Master's of AI program and graduated from that in 2021. I personally met Tareq during one of the ASA, which was the Western Cultural Club's events. And it was so great to have someone else from Kuwait as well. You don't see a lot of people from Kuwait or Western, so that's how we connected, and we've been in touch ever since. Tareq, I'll pass it on to you to say hi to our listeners and maybe give a brief introduction about life before Western.
Of course. So, hi everyone. Hi Hussein. Thank you for the intro. Um, as Hussein mentioned, my name is Tareq Tayeh. I graduated from Western with a bachelor's and master's, both of them within the software engineering and AI domains. Been so I've been in London since like 2013. Besides like my jobs at my IBM, were relocated to the GTA, so I'm always nearby Western, heart and soul. I got invited there multiple times to give some talks. Here I am with the Voices of Western. It's always a pleasure to be anything related with Western. I find it as part of my identity in a sense, as my second home. As Hussein mentioned, I came from Kuwait. So I was born and raised in Kuwait, where I attended the British system school. And then I made the move to come to Canada, and it was the selection of which universities I wanted to select. And for some reason, Western was the one that I wanted. I wanted to experience the life-work balance, that they have, the atmosphere, the vibe, and just chilling there. And I think I made the best decision possible by selecting Western.
Did you go through any of these like university fairs that were happening in Kuwait? That's how I found out about Western.
Western was never on the list. There was always like UFB, Waterloo, McMaster, maybe Carleton. And I saw all that. I applied to all these universities. But like, I don't know, like at the same time, even if you get acceptances from all these, like, as they mentioned, the top rated universities, I thought about uni more than just education. As much as education is important, I thought about networking as well, making sure that I build really good, the solid connections, making friendships. And the harder the education is, the less time that you have creating these social lives. It was a decision that I had to make. So looking online, seeing like the Western, let's say, website, like the videos that I can find about Western, something really lured me about the university. So I just did it my own research and I found out about it.
And the interesting thing about Western's pages is that they are really organized somehow. The person who was designing the website or links or hyperlinks, I think they did a great job, at least from the perspective of, a potential international student who has no idea how Western is like, and they're just like exploring through their website. So
Oh,
that's a good thing to
I,
do,
Yeah, and even like the vibrant purple color is
yeah.
also luring. To me, when I checked also engineering, like I found the images of like people and whatever his work is pretty diverse. And because I wanted engineering and I had no clue what type of engineering I wanted, they offered the common first year. And they were one of the few universities which highlighted that the first year is a common first year. In other universities, you have to like dig deep into it to find that, oh, first year is a common year between all engineers. Maybe there's a one or two courses specific to your domain, but Western made it very clear. It's a general first year program. And that's really what helped me as well with my decision.
Sure. So by common, you mean so like you don't basically pick your major in first year, right? Like all of you take almost the same courses, maybe with the
Yeah,
exception of one or two.
so let's say they So you apply, you specify what engineering you want in order for Western to make their choices. So when they accept individuals, they make sure they don't accept like, let's say now they accept 800 engineering students. They don't accept 750 who has first choice as civil engineering, right? They ensure there's a mix with the people that they apply, because generally a lot of people tend to stick with the engineering that they apply with, or something that's near the engineering that they selected. So if they selected electrical, they might end up in software, they might end up in computer, and so on. But the idea is, like, like when you apply, when you enter university, you're all taking the same exact courses. All of you, within a year, you're all going to be finishing the same exact courses, every single engineer. And then in March, I believe it was March, you select you rank your choices, of which engineering you want.
Okay. Kuwait, because I have the privilege of living there, is one of the world's hottest countries. How was the transition from one of the world's hottest countries to one of the world's coldest countries?
It's it was a very hard transition. I loved escaping the heat, but I hated, going to the harsh winter. Uh 20 so I moved in 2013. 2013 had an extremely harsh winter. It was like the winter there was hard. At the beginning, I enjoyed it. I was like, wow, snow. Haven't seen snow before. You have some snowball fights here and there. You walk with your like snow boots. You walk around. Like it's nice, within the first few weeks. But after a while, when it starts like um, affecting your walks to class, or affecting what you wear, or the coat jacket, it gets really tough. So like but like in a sense, I prefer the coldness over heat, because in the heat, like there's only a maximum amount of clothes that you can take out, but when it's cold, you can wear as much layers of clothes that you want. And then we're lucky, here in Canada, everything indoor is heated really well. So then you can take off, whatever jackets that you don't need, and so on. So I think it was a nice change in a sense, and you kind of adapt, and you just accept the fact of the coldness.
Yeah, I think like right now, even thinking about my experience after 5 years, it has become a normal thing to me. Like winter is no longer scary. I remember in my first year, it definitely was a scary transition to do that. And it was harsh in my first year, which was 2018. That was a harsh winter. But I think with all of this global warming happening, winters are getting more and more bearable. We're seeing less and less harsher days, which I guess is a bad thing, but I can't comment on global warming because I don't know much about it. It's like it's terrible, but that's besides the point. In terms of differences, what other things have you noticed, you know, different in Kuwait versus Canada? One of the things that comes to my mind is the access to opportunities or funding. In Canada, it's like so great. People are supportive. If you have an idea, you can literally run with it, get support. They offer free advisors, all of those things. What else have you noticed?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned here is a very important, aspect about the one of the privileges of being in Canada, and having all these opportunities. The way that I believe kids, or teenagers in Canada think is pretty much it's different than where I was raised. It's the sense of opportunity, is the sense that if you want to create a business, you can do it from scratch right now with whatever idea that you have, and you can go away with it, especially with the access of the World Wide Web that we have right now, and the access of any fundings. There's a lot of scholarships out there. There's a lot of fundings, whether it's university or on a federal level or within a province level, that you can work with. A lot of scholarships that they offer to even kids to pursue, whatever that they have and in dreams. It's something that's incredible. It's a very, very important aspect. Another thing personally that I really loved when I went to Canada is the kind of notion of like organization that's within the country, in a sense where, especially because I'm a student, like I want to know, okay, so how is it organized? So you would finish, in a sense, you would finish your bachelor's, you might do like an internship, and then you would find a job. Here are the job portals, here's what you can do, and so on. So there's like a system in place, at least in my time. Maybe now people are graduating, now it's harder for them to find a job, especially with the economic situation that we're in. But in general, like there is a whole pipeline or streamline of like process. Once you graduate, okay, you get this job. Sometimes recruiters come to your university and they want to hire you, and so on. Now, I know this is in place in a lot of other countries as well. But the way that we have it as well in Western is that it comes to you in the university portal. Like, for example, for IBM, when I applied, that was part of the university portal that I found, for the co-op. I just went there, I signed it, I had my resume already uploaded and my transcript, just wrote a cover letter. It didn't things were very, very smooth. Interview, and then after the interview, yes, they need your transcript, they need your letter of like being employed by Western, but it's very, very easy. There's no like you have to go and authenticate a paper, go elsewhere, get a degree, and there's everything is much smoother, and everything is like, if you do ABC, you're gonna get the opportunity available for you. That's something which I appreciate, especially as a young person, because you need that guidance. We never worked before. All we focus on is education and getting the grades, but what is doing afterwards, that's something which I found, is a big thing. And of course, goes without saying, the Canadians, how friendly and how nice they are. It's just things that you learn, you pick up on, and you tend to learn from them and be able to also give back and be as friendly and as nice as well to others.
Absolutely. A lot of great points. I love the paperwork example that you provided, right? Like you don't have to authenticate every single piece of paper. That's important because it's already there, because they have thought about the system and put it in place that reduces the workload by so much.
Because the
So
system, as you mentioned, the system is in place. Like they know all universities, they study the same thing, the same material. It's hard to like create a fraudulent like kind of like degree, and they're gonna find it, immediately. But in some other places, you can easily make like a degree that's fraudulent, create unrealistic resumes and apply. It's just pretty much. But yeah, that's really it.
amazing. You talked about your co-op experience during undergrad. Maybe we can talk more about it. I know like some people are on the edge whether they should extend their degree by a year just to get a co-op experience. What's your take on it? How was it?
So, if anyone's watching this and they're debating whether to take an internship or not, the short answer is yes. Don't even think twice. Just get an internship. The reason why is it's much bigger than just money, or time. It's getting real life experience as a student. That is something that's invaluable, and you'll never have that opportunity again later on. So you work, for a certain period of time, and then you go back to university as a student, and you have a different mindset, a different way of thinking, and you already have all that experience that you can utilize in your final year projects, or that can even make your decision about what you want to do after you obtain your bachelor degree. Because so about my experience, coming from Kuwait, telling my parents I want to do an internship, that's not even common. They were like, just finish your degree and then just work, like, why do you need an internship? Like, we don't need you to work. We don't want like just finish your degree. But then everyone with me, they did the internship. So I was like, okay, it's the norm. Let me do an internship. There must be some benefits to it. So I just did my resume, applied, managed to land a job offer with IBM. And only when I started working with IBM after a month or two, I managed to actually understand the benefits of internship, and me being extremely lucky that I actually applied and went through that process. In school, you only learn theory. You might work in projects. You might get a taste of some industry project in the first 3 years, which I doubt. Maybe not every single opportunity, not every single degree in university gives you that opportunity. But when you work in the industry and you see how it works, you don't, when you come back to university, you don't tend to just focus on the material that you're learning. You tend to have a whole big picture about why you're learning this, right? So in my case, although my degree did not, although my job did not include any kind of cloud computing, right? When I came to fourth year, I got a cloud computing course to take. That allowed me to then think about how, for example, IBM uses their cloud computing to leverage ABC, and then what do they want to do afterwards with that technology. And when I studied the material, okay, I studied the theory, I tried to do my assignments, but I also tried to go outside of just the course material and try to do my own research about how does this fit within the bigger picture, just because I have this experience. Otherwise, I feel anyone who doesn't do an internship, they're going to go into their fourth year doing the same exact, like studying processes that they did in their second and third year, which is not very beneficial. You need that change, you need that disruption a little bit of in your life in order to gain as much knowledge as possible when you're young, to be able to know what career path do you want to do in your future. And that's why doing an internship is extremely pinnacle, because no one has forced you to work for any longer, than like the specified period of whether it's 4 months, 12 months, or 16 months. And then you go back to study, and then you can decide about what you want to do later, whether it's a master's, doing your own business, or going back to the industry.
Yeah, I think the fact that the internship is also timed could be a great thing too. So let's say, you can, I remember I was in that program too, where you were able to do like 2 8-month positions, right? Or maybe 1 8-month, 1 4-month position. And that's valuable. In fact, like I would argue doing like 1 8-month and 1 4-month position is better than maybe doing one complete 12 months, because like you get to see a lot more, you get to adapt to so many more systems in place. And hey, when you leave, like no one is going to be mad at you, because it's just like the end of your contract duration. Plus, on the positive side, if you're good, you may likely receive a return offer to, come back and work full time post graduation.
Yep, and based on what you said about having maybe like 1 8-month and another 8 month or 4 month is better, that goes for what the person's career path is, and what do they want out of it. Do they want to, like, at least, like, for example, I did a 16 month. When you do a 16 month and you excel, there's always a chance for you to get that full-time offer back and go back. But you also could do 5 different 4 month, opportunities, or 4 different 4 month opportunities, and you get exposed to different sectors, different companies, different management systems, which would allow you to be as flexible and as strong. And even when you graduate, you work for a job, you don't feel like you're too attached to a job if you don't like it, and you can easily switch. Or when you start working a job that you really like, then because of your experiences, you know that this is the job for you, and that's one of the crucial elements about why Waterloo Engineering is actually a very superior engineering in terms of like building their students toward the industry, is because they offer five different 4 month internships, at least for engineers. That's why when I personally work with a lot of Waterloo students, they have a lot of connections, they have a lot of experiences. So if people within Western, they want to do a co-op, it's also very beneficial if you want to have different years. After second year, you might have a summer co-op. After third year, you might do you might do two different, 8 month co-op, and that's, you have three different experiences under your belt, which can help you also land a job after you graduate, because you have three experiences to talk about in your interviews.
Absolutely. That's how they get like better and better paying jobs too. I think one of the things you also touched on that I wanted to expand on was the fact it gives you a different perspective. For example, sometimes I wonder, like, had like a co-op internship during university, how would have my fourth year of university gone? Like sometimes I'm like I tell people like, hey, get some kind of work experience full time because it then shows you how flexible school life can be if you have, the privilege of not having to work multiple jobs and just like focus on, studies and maybe other goals. I think it would actually be a lot more flexible and doing a lot of things. But then the pushback I receive is, yeah, well, if you work, you don't have 11:59 p.m. Deadlines, whereas in university you do a lot of them in every weekend. So that's also a counterpoint. But
Yeah,
each opportunity is great in its own time for sure.
I agree.
Maybe you graduated, well, you did co-op, you graduated, you did full time at IBM. What made you want to come back to Western to do this Masters of AI program?
Um, this all kind of like links up. So after my co-op, I went back to do my fourth year, and the people. So when I did my internship at IBM, I went with two of my buddies with me. We all lived together. We worked together within the same company, just different teams. Then went back to fourth year. So when we were presented with our capstone project, we decided to do something that's pretty much that's difficult. There was a lot of projects that was offered to us, but we decided one that is a bit more difficult and challenging to gain the experience. After the motivation that we saw from IBM in order to get more real life experience, because that was in collaboration with the Western hospital. Okay, so with the university hospital. So long story short, we managed to eventually publish a paper at the end of our fourth year, do really well in our capstone project and get recognized for it. And it was the first time I got exposed to research. I never really thought about research ever, before. I didn't even know what's a research paper, exactly. They didn't teach us that much in engineering. So and that happened while I finished the capstone project in April, and then I started working in May, right? And then the paper got published, let's say, at the end of that summer. And I started reading it more and liking the idea of someone being able to do research. It's not like it's doing your own thing in a sense, but not necessarily a business, right? It's not like starting your own business and hustling, but it's like doing your own research in a field that you like. So I saw that and I was like, maybe, even though when I graduated, I was like, I'm never coming back for a master's. Maybe, like just maybe after like reading this research paper, I would do my own research within a field that I would like. And I kept that, in the back of my mind. And then like in let's say the end of the year, I got exposed to machine learning and AI. And I'm personally like a big admirer of mathematics, physics, like linear algebra, anything that requires numbers is something that I really enjoy. And then I read a lot about like machine learning and the AI field, and like basically it's a research field. It's like a basis of any kind of like research field. So I had a couple of decisions to make, because I wanted to switch. Like I just made my decision to switch. I didn't want to be just a developer, a coder. I wanted to also utilize some of my mathematical skills and utilize them within like with software. And to me, the best decision for me was, if I really wanted to be like a machine learning researcher or a really good machine learning engineer, then my foundations need to be the best. And for that, I had to do my research in AI. And I was lucky enough personally that one of my best friends, who's actually at that time he was doing a master's of AI as well under the supervision of Dr. Shami. He linked me with the professor. The professor taught me when I was an undergrad, so they knew me pretty well. We connected really quickly, and they were like, "Sure, I would be more than happy to offer you a position to come back." Things were pretty smooth in that sense, and I just got an offer to go back to a master's. And It was pretty easy, for me decision to go back to masters. I felt like I had unfinished business to do at Western, and yeah, I did that research, and it was one of the best decisions I made.
Amazing. Is it are you able to like maybe give a brief summary of what you worked on, trying to keep the language as simple for people to understand? Like I'm talking about people who have no idea what AI or machine learning is.
Sure. You want me to just give an idea
Hmm.
of what AI
Sure.
is to
Yeah.
people? Sure. Okay. Okay. So a lot of people hear the word like AI, like AI, like this uses AI, and the basis of what artificial intelligence is when you have like a computer or a machine that simulates like a human intelligent process or task of whatever sort it is, anything that can simulate any kind of a human intelligence. And that's why they're like AI can do this, it can do that, something that shows any kind of intelligence within that field. So then and you hear a lot of people interchangeably use AI and then machine learning, AI and machine learning. But what is it? And depending on the domain that you mentioned, a lot of people would say that maybe they're different, maybe they're together, but like the most common thing is that machine learning is a subdomain of AI. And machine learning is the most common form of AI that we see nowadays because it's one of the most powerful ones. And machine learning really is in a sense where you would get a computer to act to solve a task, without explicitly programming it to do so. A lot of people have like experience, like let's say writing algorithms. Okay,
Yeah.
so you would say I would do something simple, and a simple algorithm would be you would write like, okay, if that student got this grade, would it be A, B, C, D? You would just write that algorithm. Let's say someone got an 85, oh, that's an A, that's a simple algorithm, but that does not possess any AI because that algorithm already knows the inputs and the outputs in a sense. Like it already knows, oh, if I get like an 85, I know what to give in a grade. But what if like if I want to talk about machine learning, I'll give you something very simple to the audience that we have. Let's say I give this machine learning model and I wanted to train it on, let's say, 20 data points, right? And I want this model to be smart enough to separate them, like I gave them 20 data points, an X value and a Y value, within like a chart. And I want that machine learning model to separate them. And if there is a clear distinction between the points, it will know how to separate them into two different sets. So let's say if the X and Y values were small for, let's say, 10 data points, and it was high X and Y values for 10 data points, then the machine learning algorithm will be smart enough to train and learn that if I get any new data point, if it has a small X or Y, I'm going to put it in this set. If it's high, I'm going to put it in this set. So if you give it a new data point that it hasn't seen before, but it has seen similar characteristics by other data points, it will know where to place it, whether it's set one or set two. That's a very simple, way of how ML uses, and it simulates kind of like human intelligence. Because if you're a human, you get this data point, you'll look at it, you'll be like, oh yeah, it makes sense. I'm just going to put it in this set. And that's really what we aspire machine learning models to be, such as ChatGPT nowadays. It's like talking to a human. Now it's a much more sophisticated model, that uses something called deep learning under machine learning. So what deep learning is, it's literally machine learning models that are used, to extract like higher level features from data in a hierarchical fashion. Right. So if I told you I gave you X and Y, what if I gave you, rather than just a 2D point, I give you a 10D point? Can a simple ML model do it, or do you need a much more complex deep learning model to solve such a task, and so on?
Okay, I liked your explanation and I was following through so well at the end until you mentioned the 10D point. What's a 10D point? Is
So
that just
10D
like
point
10 different things, variables?
is 10 different values for that, because right now when we think about it, I think all of us can easily imagine a 2D space, right? Like Y and X, right? And then you would have a value. some of us, who studied math would be able to visualize a 3D space where you're going to have like y, x, and then there's z plane, right? There's
Yeah.
a z plane. That's a 3D point. Now, so a lot of times now data points have 10D points and 20D points. How? So for example, let's say you would like to get a data, you want to know, let's say you have like a data point within like a specific domain, right? Let's say I'm gonna talk about any kind of like Internet of Things, like or smart manufacturing or any kind of like domain. You have a data point, and then that data point has so many different values. You would have, let's say, a value for its x-axis, its y-axis, its z-axis. You would have a value of its weight, its mass, its height, and so on. Each one of them adds a dimension to that value, and so on. And that's how it is, and that's where deep learning comes into space, when it solves such high complex features.
One follow-up question on machine learning. So I like the analogy that you use on how it uses human points or values or results that are already there and bases on the results of the upcoming like tests or whatever, or like the new points that comes to it, bases it off of the results or how they were placed and places them. One thing's about machine learning that I have heard about, which could be true, could be false, is that it keeps on learning and learning. So does that mean, the results or output that it produces based on human outputs would also be used as a base or a set point for the future results that it produces? Does the
So
question make sense?
So you're saying if from machine learning model outputs, they take that output and they learn from it again?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's one way that a machine learning model could be it could basically continuous learning. That's really one of the ways, one of the domains under machine learning. One of the ways where like I would give you right now of like about the hot topic, ChatGPT. How does ChatGPT ensure that it's continuously learning new data? Because let's say if I ask it a year ago, what is the population of Chicago? It's going to give me a value. Now, if you don't retrain that model and you ask it this year, what is the population of Chicago? Okay, it's going to give you the same value as last year, which is not true because the population of Chicago has changed. So you need to continuously teach it. So one way right now is in order to keep it update, there's continuous learning in a sense where they continuously feed it new data, based on the question that the user would ask, they would feed it new data and it would learn. There's also like new shifts in a sense where in a lot of places, you would get notified whenever there's like data change. So let's say if Wikipedia, for example, mentioned that, oh, the population of Chicago changed, it's going to send an alert, to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to start learning new data. And that's not necessarily used in ChatGPT, it's used in different domains. It's called the covariate shifts for the people who know machine learning, or like concept drifts. And then that's where it's going to start really learning and so on. And that's where we're at right now, is to ensure that because machine learning is just an algorithm that you teach it and then it produces an output. It's technically not as smart as you would think. It's just an input, learn, output. So you need to make sure that the input is as close as to the truth as possible in order to get the most accurate outputs.
That makes a lot more sense now hearing about it. And I think is a perfect segue to our hot take section as well. And the question for this week is, will AI take our jobs in the future? And I will let you take the first hit.
Not in the near future. but maybe in the extended future, I would say yes, it would take over a lot of the jobs that we're doing, similar to how the different revolutions in the past, have changed the way that we humans have worked, agriculture and then manufacturing, and now a lot of us have desk jobs. This would also do the same kind of shifts, the AI kind of like revolution. Now, I don't think a lot of the jobs are going to be taken off in the next 2, 3, or 4 years, but maybe any kind of like quick automated job, that could be quickly automated would be taken over. So whenever you want to order coffee or you want to order food through a drive-through, I can see that being completely AI pretty easily in a sense, especially with the evolution and, the speed that we're working within AI, that could happen. Except there's a lot of AI ethics and biases and regulations they've been talking about it this year. Maybe when that's putting into place, that's going to halt a little bit of the progress that we're doing in AI, which is good and maybe bad at the same time, in a sense about our speed. But that's one thing to note. And in the future, like 20 or 30 years, then yeah, anything simple that is repetitive, anyone is doing in any kind of like job should be taken by AI. And we as humans should be allowed to do other more creative work that computers are not smart enough to do. And that's how we continuously advance as a society. So short answer to that is not in the near future, and perhaps just a good percentage in the in the extended future later on.
That's the First of all, that's a really good answer. And it's very similar to an answer I had almost a year, like 6, 8 months ago, as I was speaking to someone. And then they said the results or statistics that have come through this year show that with the introduction of AI tools or like Chat GPT, the amount of growth, it looks now I'm not sure what kind of growth we're talking about, but the amount of growth or potential that was happening was like really fast. So you know how a curve, how a curve curves, right? How it grows fast. Apparently, like with AI, it's like jumping levels, which is like almost non-existent. Jumping levels means it's like going up vertically so fast.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's exponentially just going like
yeah,
this.
exactly. Exponentially going up fast that like it's making me even think that I honestly don't think it would be unheard of to see a lot of jobs getting lost in 2 years. But not in every country though. Like we're talking about countries that are like really advanced, really taking advantage of all of these benefits that come with AI. And then the other thought that I had was, how likely is this going to lead to a 4-day work week? Because if you look at the history, like previously people used to like work 6 days a week. In some countries they still do. And then like the industrial revolution happened, it kind of turned down to 5. And now like there are a lot of companies, because of being more efficient or just by the virtue of their business model and how they operate, are testing out 4 days of work week, 4 working days in a week. So I wonder like what kind of impact would AI's revolution have on this? And I have a feeling it may be 4 days in a week of work. But also the thing is, I know we are going to have a lot of unskilled labor who sadly just refuse to upskill. Either they don't want it, or they don't have the tools to upskill, or they don't, are just not a fan of education. And those people will be hit the most difficult. But anyone else who learns how to, create a side hustle in 5 minutes, I guess with AI, is all of those Instagram, TikTok reels that I've seen recently, should be winning in the next few years, is what my take is. And I could
Yeah,
be wrong.
no, yeah. No, I agree with your take. The 4 day week is just kind of hard to kind of like predict. The reason why a lot of the reasons why they want to do like a 4 day week is because of AI, it's taking away the easier jobs. Now, of course, there's no way to rank an easy job and a hard job. You know, a lot of jobs could be easy and hard depending on the eye that you look at it. But a lot of the repetitive jobs are being taken by AI. So you are basically forced to do a harder job, a harder desk job, which requires you to use more of your brain capacity while solving, tasks, or even just creating these machine learning models is going to be much more tougher. So perhaps they're looking into ways of, is a 4-day week going to provide more efficient, output by our employees by giving them a day extra rest or not? We're going to see how that goes, because I think I don't know if it's Iceland or Finland, they adopted that. I'm wondering to see how efficient they are as compared to other nearby countries that still have the 5-day work there in the particular sectors. And yeah, we'll see. The only way I can see it is it's when it becomes a regulation, like a countrywide regulation in a sense.
Yeah, and yeah, that's good that you mentioned the countries. I will look them up. Not sure how soon we'll see it, but I think it would be cool to have a 4-day work weekend, 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
Maybe we can also talk about your like day-to-day job, right? Like what do you spend your time on? I know we had a brief talk about augmented reality. Maybe we can also touch on that too and just see where the conversation takes us.
Sure. So I currently work for a company called ModiFace, which is a L'Oreal group company. We're in the beauty tech space. So as the name really entails, we kind of like modify your face in a sense. We offer a lot of virtual try-on, experiences, such as makeup virtual try-ons, nails virtual try-ons, hair virtual try-ons. These virtual try-ons, allow you to try different products, and colors and shades on your own like skin through virtual try-on. So it's an augmented reality kind of like thing that allows you to test a lot of new products. So but what I mean is, I believe because when I talk a lot of these kind of like words to people, they don't really quite get it. So the easiest way to say is if you have your phone in front of you and then you open one of our apps, you click on let's try this product now. So let's say it's a red lipstick, by what is that company? Forgot. So let's say by L'Oreal, right? Let's say it's one of by L'Oreal lipstick. You would try it on. And then on your phone, you're gonna see you're gonna see your face there with the red lipstick tried on there. If you want a different color, you can choose a different color. You want a different product, you can go on. You want a full look, you have that opportunity, and that's what we provide, and we do that for hair and nail. We also provide skin analysis in a sense where you would take a selfie, frontal selfie, left selfie, right selfie, and then it would analyze your skin health and would provide what is the biggest skin concern that you do have. So my job, as a machine learning engineer or an MLOps engineer, when you work in a smaller company, really names don't really matter that much. You work in so many different roles and tasks. So a lot of what I work on is I get the machine learning models that we have a dedicated AI research team that they work on. We get these machine learning models and we try to make them as efficient as possible and make them place them in the production world. We wrap them around, we convert them into something which is simple, so we can put them onto the web or on mobile devices, because machine learning models are huge. These huge models are going to be slow, and they're not going to work well when placed into like limited computing devices such as our mobiles or computers or browsers. So we need to be able, in my team, to make them as efficient as possible to productionize them. So that's really what I do in my job.
When talking about skin analysis for like different health conditions that one may have, one of the things I wanted to ask is how accurate is it? Especially
Yeah.
if we're talking about a phone camera, scanning your face.
That's a very good question. So we started a lot of the validation studies to ensure how good our skin analysis is back in 2017. And it shows that it is over 95% accurate, in terms of skin scores as compared to beauty advisors, or expert dermatologists. So it is accurate because the model itself is trained by selfie images. It's not trained by someone with like clear lighting and like full face. No, it's actually trained by the same kind of images it would see by the regular user. And that's how the machine learning model is able, to understand the scores correctly. That's really what the validation really studies score. And sometimes it even outperforms dermatologists or like skin experts, because they would look at your skin. Each one like has their own different idea. They might say, no, it's a large pore. That's your skin concern. No, it's actually dark pigmentation. But then the model would know, from how much it has been trained, and it can outperform the consensus within dermatologists.
And so is this an example of a machine learning where it learns from the input that it is getting daily from users and then uses that to like analyze future images as well?
In a sense, yes, in a sense. So it's more like deep learning because, as I mentioned, deep learning really solves higher level, problems or complexes. A machine learning model would not be able, due to its like algorithms in nature, it doesn't really solve complex tasks. So it has to be within the deep learning domain. And it's an example. You would give it some input, of real life examples, it would learn, and then it would be able to give such a similar output.
Amazing. I guess it's
Yeah.
also like time for our last question of the episode. I saw something
Sure.
new recently where it's a mystery question. Guests usually get, a sense of the questions that they're going to be asked, but Tareq today, like the last question, they would have no idea what it is going to be moving forward, just to make it some like mysterious and like on the spot thing. And don't worry, it's not too difficult, I hope.
Sure.
The question for
Sure.
you today is, what do you want to do more of in 2024?
Mm. Um, I think what they want to do more of is continue on exploring different fields that surround, AI. One thing that I have done this year was to be focusing on the ethics and biases and inclusivity of AI, particularly the models that we have in our company. That was something which I really enjoyed because that also gives you a different way to view AI, rather than just, oh, it's a model, gives you outputs and so on. There's much more to it. There's also, the sustainability factor, as you mentioned, global warming earlier. Right now, machine learning models, when they're trained, they take up a lot of energy and consumption, on the big servers that they have around the world. So that's something which, it's something which I would like to know. And I would like to continuously, expand my knowledge within AI, become more of an expert within the field. And that's something which I personally hope to do more of in 2024.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much for this, and thank you for a great episode. I'm sure we learned a lot of valuable points, mostly about AI, machine learning, whether to do a co-op during undergrad or not, and whether to come back for a master's degree or not. So a lot of great things. If you have, I will pass it on to you to share any final thoughts that you may have.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Hussein. I hope everyone who listened at least learned one new thing, today. If that happened, then I know that's a success. Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for the Voices of Western for this platform, for me to share my thoughts. And
Amazing. Thank you, Tara. And yeah, feel free to check us out on Spotify, Instagram. We're on all of the major podcast platforms where you can find the full episode of this, even YouTube if you want to watch it with video. Thank you so much, Tareq, and have a great rest of your day.